No one warned me, not really. They told me to work hard, to save money, to build a name, but no one told me how empty a house can feel when it's filled with things, but no laughter. No one told me how success could sit beside loneliness and never say a word. No one told me that at 30, I wouldn't feel like a grown man, but like a child trapped in a suit, trying to look like he knows where he's going. They never said life gets quiet when you're busy performing, that relationships don't end with shouting, they die in silence, that every missed dinner, every delayed "I love you" is a cost you don't see until the debt has already taken something you can't get back. I wish someone had told me that, but they didn't. And so I paid the price in people I lost, in time I can't recover, in the echo of what if at 3 a.m. when the room was too quiet to hide from myself. I was 30 once. I had strong hands. I had ambition like fire and pride like stone. And I thought those things made me untouchable. I was wrong, because beneath that fire was fear. And beneath that stone was a boy who still needed permission to feel. But I buried him under deadlines, under pressure, under the desperate need to become somebody. Nobody told me it was okay to not have it all figured out. Nobody told me that uncertainty isn't failure. It's the beginning of truth. They just said, keep going, don't stop, man up. And so I did. I kept going, even when I was lost, even when I was tired, even when the mirror stopped looking like someone I recognized. I wish someone had looked me in the eye and said, slow down. Ask yourself who you're becoming. But they didn't, and I didn't. And so I built a life with my head down, only to look up years later and wonder where I was and who I'd become. Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. Have you ever sat in a room full of people and felt like no one really sees you? Have you ever been praised for things that made you feel like a stranger to yourself? Have you ever worked so hard for a future you forgot to live the day that was right in front of you? I have. And if you have too, then maybe this video isn't just my story. Maybe it's yours. Maybe this isn't just the voice of a 70-year-old man with regrets. Maybe it's the voice you've been ignoring inside yourself, quiet, buried, patient, but still alive. Because here's the truth. No one told me at 30, and what I need you to hear now. You can't outrun what you haven't faced. You can't build a meaningful life on top of a foundation you never questioned. And you can't love anyone well until you stop lying to yourself. That was the price I paid. I chased everything, status, security, significance, and I got most of it. But in the process, I lost time. I lost tenderness. I lost moments I can't recreate, and people I can no longer call. So before you keep running, just stop. Sit with me. Listen. Not because I have all the answers, but because I've lived long enough to see what questions matter. This is not a motivational speech. This is not advice from a stage. This is a voice from a quiet room, from a man who thought he knew what mattered and found out too late that he didn't. But you still can. You still have time. At 30, I thought I had to be certain about everything. My path, my beliefs, my goals. I thought uncertainty was weakness. That doubt made me untrustworthy. That not knowing meant I wasn't trying hard enough. So I pretended. I nodded when I didn't understand. I agreed when I wanted to scream. I smiled when I was exhausted. No one told me that authenticity is stronger than certainty. That people don't need you to have all the answers. They need you to be honest enough to admit when you don't. And I didn't know how. I wore confidence like armor. But inside, I was hollow, afraid to ask for help, afraid to slow down, afraid that if I stopped performing, everyone would walk away. There's a lie we're sold in our 30s that being successful means being busy. That rest is for the lazy. That exhaustion is proof you're doing something important. But I've lived long enough now to know burnout is not a badge of honor. It's a sign of betrayal of your body, your values, your soul. I wish someone had looked me in the eye and said, "You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to not be productive every minute. You're allowed to enjoy being alive without needing to earn it." No one did. So I kept pushing, kept grinding, kept saying yes to everything but myself. And eventually, I broke. Not with a bang, but with a slow, quiet unraveling. I stopped laughing, stopped sleeping, stopped recognizing my own reflection. But from that breaking, something unexpected happened. I finally heard my own voice, and it whispered, "This is not who you are." I started questioning things. Why do I work so much? Why do I say yes when I want to say no? Why do I surround myself with people who only love the version of me that performs? And perhaps the hardest question of all, when did I stop being kind to myself? I looked back and realized I was generous with everyone but me. I gave others patience, but none for my own mistakes. I offered compassion, but couldn't forgive myself. I encouraged vulnerability, but built walls around my own heart. It took me years, decades even, to understand you can't give what you don't give yourself. Not truly, not sustainably. The love I gave from emptiness always came with a price. Resentment, exhaustion, distance I didn't understand. But when I started loving myself softly, quietly, without apology, I had more to give than ever before. Not because I tried harder, but because I finally stopped trying to earn the right to breathe. They say wisdom comes with age, but I think it comes with surrender, with stopping long enough to say, I don't know who I am anymore, but I want to find out before it's too late. That moment, that's when your life begins again, not with fireworks, not with applause, but with a breath, a tear, a whisper in the dark. Maybe I deserve more than survival, and once that whisper is heard, you can't go back. You won't go back, because the moment you remember what it feels like to live even just for a moment, you'll never again settle for merely existing. I wish someone had told me that success and fulfillment are not the same thing, that having a full calendar doesn't mean you have a full life, that being respected isn't the same as being loved. At 30, I chased success because I thought it would fix the emptiness. If I could just make enough, be enough, achieve enough, maybe I'd finally feel like I mattered. And I did achieve things, the job, the house, the reputation. But the emptiness didn't leave. It just wore nicer clothes. It sat at fancier tables. It smiled in photos. But it whispered to me every night, "This isn't it. This isn't you." The world taught me to perform, but it never taught me how to belong. It told me how to win, but not how to rest. It taught me how to make people admire me, but not how to let them see the parts of me I was ashamed of. So I became a stranger to myself. I was polished on the outside and quietly unraveling inside. I had friends, but I was lonely. I had plans, but no peace. No one told me that silence is not the absence of sound, it's the absence of being understood. And I sat in a lot of silence, rooms filled with people where no one knew I was drowning. Looking back, I don't regret what I built. I regret what I ignored while building it. I ignored the text that said, "Call me when you're free." I ignored the aching in my chest when I skipped dinner again. I ignored the soft voice that said, "This pace is unsustainable." And eventually, I ignored myself. You can't abandon yourself forever. Eventually, your body, your mind, your soul, they rebel. They say, "No more." Mine did. And when I finally stopped, I looked around and realized I had built a life that didn't feel like home. So I started over, not from scratch, but from truth. And that's where life started to taste different. I noticed the sun again. I heard the birds I used to tune out. I cried not because I was broken, but because I was finally safe enough to feel. I called old friends. I let go of toxic ones. I learned to say I don't know and I need help, and I was wrong. Not because I was weak, but because I had finally found the strength to be human again. And that perhaps is the greatest thing no one told me at 30. You don't have to be extraordinary to be worthy. You don't have to be impressive to be loved. You don't have to be perfect to begin again. You just have to be honest. You just have to be here. You just have to try gently, sincerely to show up. Not as the person you think others want, but as the person you've been waiting to meet. There's a strange ache that settles in your chest when you realize you've been living someone else's version of a good life. Not because you were forced to, but because you never stopped to ask, what do I actually want? I wanted approval. I wanted to make people proud. I wanted to be seen as someone who had it all together. And for a while, I succeeded. But one night, after a long week of meetings, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in the dark, and I realized I was surrounded by everything I thought I wanted. And I was miserable. No one told me that loneliness doesn't always look like being alone. Sometimes it looks like having everything except connection. I started to notice how disconnected I was. I could recite my goals by heart, but couldn't remember the last time I laughed until I cried. I could impress a boardroom, but couldn't hold space for my own sadness. I had opinions about everything, but didn't know how to say, "I'm scared, I'm tired, I don't know what I'm doing anymore." And slowly, that mask of having it all together began to suffocate me. I didn't want to admit it, not to my coworkers, not to my partner, not even to myself. But I had to, because pretending is a form of self-abandonment, and I was tired of disappearing. So I began to tell the truth, not to everyone, just to the people who had earned the right to hear it, the ones who saw the cracks in me and didn't flinch, the ones who stayed when I stopped performing, the ones who said, "I love this version of you, the honest one." And slowly, my life began to soften, not because my problems disappeared, but because I wasn't carrying them alone anymore. There's something sacred about being witnessed, not in your success, but in your realness. That's when healing begins. I wish I had known sooner that vulnerability is not weakness. It's the doorway to the kind of life that doesn't just look good, but feels good. It's in the moment when you say, "I'm not okay," and someone says, "Me neither. Let's figure it out together." It's in the conversations that don't have answers, but leave you feeling less alone. It's in the courage to ask for help, even if your voice shakes. And so, to anyone listening who's tired, who's afraid, who's wondering if they're too far gone, too messed up, too late, let me say what no one said to me. You're not too late. You're not too much. You're exactly where you need to be to begin again. You don't need a 5-year plan. You need 5 minutes of honesty. You don't need a breakthrough. You need a breath. Start there. Let it be messy. Let it be small. Let it be enough. Because it is. At some point, you'll realize not everything that breaks you is meant to destroy you. Some things break you open so something softer can grow. I didn't understand that at 30. When things fell apart, I thought I was failing. I thought pain meant I'd made the wrong choice. I thought heartbreak was proof I wasn't strong enough. But pain is a teacher, not a punishment. And heartbreak is not the end, it's a mirror. It shows you what you value. It shows you where you've abandoned yourself. It shows you what matters and what never did. When I lost my father, I was 32. We hadn't spoken in months, not because of anger, but because of pride. He was stubborn. I was too. And we both thought we had more time. Then the call came, sudden, unexpected, final. At his funeral, I stood there not thinking about our arguments, but about all the things I never said, the questions I never asked, the stories I never listened to, the I love you I kept in my throat for a day that never came. And that was the day I learned regret is not about what you did, it's about what you didn't do while you still had the chance. So now I say it, even when it feels awkward, even when I don't know how it'll be received. I say I love you. I say I'm proud of you. I say I miss you while they're still here to hear it, because silence is heavy, and there are some words you'll carry forever if you never set them free. I also learned to say, I'm sorry, not with conditions, not with a defense, just, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I didn't show up how you needed me to. It's hard, but it's healing. Because when you take responsibility for your impact, you reclaim your integrity. You show others it's safe to be imperfect. You teach them that love doesn't require perfection, just presence. And presence is the greatest gift we'll ever give. I spent too many years chasing legacy, wanting to be remembered, wanting to matter. But now I know legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's how you made people feel while you were here. It's the warmth in your voice, the gentleness of your gaze, the consistency of your love. It's the way someone says, I felt safe with them when you're no longer around. That's legacy, not your resume, not your achievements, not your bank account, but the way you made someone feel less alone. And so, I live differently now. I move slower. I listen more. I hold the people I love a little longer because I know what it feels like to wish you had one more minute, and I won't waste another one. If there's one thing I hope you remember from all this, it's that life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It just keeps moving quietly, patiently sometimes, without warning. And one day, you'll look back and realize you were already living the moments you'd one day miss. That realization broke me. Because I spent so much time preparing for some future version of happiness, I didn't notice the joy that was already in my hands. The Sunday morning coffee, the way she always tucked her hair behind her ear, the sound of little feet running down the hallway, the ordinary, unremarkable moments that now echo like prayers I wish I had stayed present for. But I was too distracted, too busy, too consumed with trying to become something that I forgot I was already someone worth being. They say hindsight is 20/20, but I think hindsight is compassion. It's when we finally offer ourselves the understanding we needed back then. And so I've stopped judging my younger self. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't selfish. He was just trying to matter, to survive, to be seen. He was doing his best with what he had, and that deserves grace. If you're 30 or anywhere close, please offer yourself that same grace. You're allowed to not know. You're allowed to outgrow what once felt right. You're allowed to pause, to pivot, to begin again. This isn't a failure. It's an awakening. I've come to believe that the greatest form of success is peace. Not comfort, not avoidance, but the kind of peace that lets you rest at night because you know you lived that day with intention, with kindness, with love that didn't hide. We think the world needs more noise, but maybe what it really needs is more quiet courage, the kind that speaks up with gentleness, that admits it's scared, that loves without asking to be repaid. That's the kind of life I wish I'd started living earlier, but I'm grateful I get to live it now. And gratitude. Gratitude is what saved me. Not the gratitude that comes when life is perfect, but the kind that shows up in the middle of the mess. Gratitude for the breath I still have, for the chance to make one more phone call, for the sunlight through the window, for the silence that no longer feels like punishment, but possibility. When you learn to be grateful for small things, your life becomes full, no matter how much you've lost. And loss? Well, that's inevitable. But I no longer fear it, because I've loved deeply. I've said the words. I've looked people in the eye and said, "You matter to me," and that I've learned is enough. I didn't understand grief until it had nowhere else to go, until it moved into my chest and sat there quietly, not demanding anything, just refusing to leave. They told me grief would come in waves, that it would lessen over time, that eventually it would pass. But here's the truth. No one told me grief doesn't leave. It changes, it softens, it settles. It becomes part of you like a second heartbeat. Not painful all the time, but always there. I used to try to outrun it. I filled my schedule. I turned up the music. I numbed myself with productivity. But grief doesn't get tired. It waits. And when everything else is quiet, it speaks. It doesn't shout. It whispers. In the smell of an old jacket, in the song that comes on in the car, in the way someone laughs just like her, and it asks the same question over and over, did you love them enough while they were here? That question haunted me for years, not because I didn't love them, but because I thought I had more time. I thought the dinner could wait, the apology could wait, the visit could wait. And then, one day, they were gone, and all that was left was the echo of what I didn't say. I've sat at too many funerals watching people bring flowers to a grave when they never brought kindness to a conversation. I've heard eulogies spoken with voices trembling from things that should have been said in kitchens, on porches, in the quiet spaces where love lives before it turns into loss. I wish we knew how sacred the ordinary is, how rare it is to be truly seen, how fleeting it is to have someone look you in the eye and say, "I'm glad you exist." Say it. Say it now. And if there's no one to say it to yourself. Because that's another thing no one told me at 30. You are allowed to be your own witness. You're allowed to be proud of yourself, even if no one else notices. You're allowed to celebrate surviving, even if no one else understands what you've been through. You are allowed to say, "I'm still here," and that's enough. I used to think healing would look like forgetting, like letting go completely, like silence where pain used to be. But healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without breaking. It means sitting with your past and no longer needing to rewrite it. It means looking at your scars and no longer wishing them away. It means holding your younger self in your heart and whispering, "You didn't ruin anything. You were learning." I've learned to speak gently to the parts of me I used to criticize, the insecure part, the jealous part, the part that was too afraid to be vulnerable. They were all trying to protect me, and now I protect them not with walls, but with softness. There comes a moment, quiet, unannounced, when you realize you're no longer chasing the life you thought you wanted. You're remembering the life you already had, the faces, the laughter, the quiet nights you once rushed through, now frozen in memory, like a photograph you didn't know you'd need. And it hits you not all at once, but in pieces, that you were living the good days even when they didn't feel that way. The sound of your child calling your name, the way your partner leaned into your shoulder without asking, the messy dinners, the half-finished conversations, the long drives with the windows down and the music too loud. You didn't know it then, but those were the holy moments, the ones that won't come back. No one told me that the most important moments of your life would look so ordinary while they were happening, that you'd only understand their weight when you felt their absence. I look back now and I don't miss the milestones. I miss the mornings, the mundane, the in-between, the breath before the laugh, the silence after the hug. Those were the sacred things. And so I tell you now, as a man who has more behind him than ahead, don't wait for clarity to live. Don't wait to be ready. You won't ever feel ready. Don't wait until you have the words say something. Don't wait until the pain goes away. Start healing in the middle of it. Don't wait for someone else to show you how, because they're waiting for you too. Love more recklessly. Apologize without defending. Say I miss you before it's comfortable. Say I forgive you before they earn it. Hold hands. Hold space. Hold eye contact. And when you love someone for the love of God, don't leave it unsaid. There will be a last time for everything. The last time you sit across from someone you love, the last time you hear their voice, the last time your child reaches for your hand, the last time you're held by someone who knew you before the world hardened you. But you won't know it's the last time, and that's why it matters. That's why it all matters. Every word, every choice, every moment. I spent too many years waiting for the right timing, for the right version of me, for a sign, a signal, a guarantee. But the only guarantee we get is that this moment is the only one promised. So, live in it, not perfectly, just honestly. I wish someone had told me at 30. You don't have to earn the right to be loved. You already are. You don't have to do more to deserve peace. You just have to stop doing what keeps stealing it. You don't have to become someone else. You just have to come home to who you were before the world told you who to be. And if no one's told you lately, let me be the one to say it. You matter. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to start over. You're allowed to not know. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to be loved in the middle of your becoming. You haven't missed your chance. You haven't wasted your story. You are not too late. And even if no one else says it, I see you. I'm proud of you, and I'm glad you're still here. So here we are, you and me, one voice, one moment, one final reminder. Live now. Say it now. Forgive now. Begin now. Before someday becomes never. Because I paid the price for waiting, and I don't want you to.